From the heartland of America to every nation on earth, this is Jack Van Impe Presents the truth in news and commentary. Here now are Doctors Jack and Rexella Van Impe.
Hello and welcome to Jack Van Impe Presents. As I always say, we do take pleasure in coming into your home every single week because we can share some of the most interesting headlines from around the world that actually we don't get here in the United States quite often. But we deeply appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. The first headline, renowned Rabbi speaks openly about Chrislam. Ahmadinejad says Iran is determined to eradicate Israel. And the Middle East Christians facing extremist atrocities. My, oh my, I never dreamed that I would ever be able to read something like that, but I will explain in just a moment. And having been in the Holy Land about 10 times, I can't tell you what a blessing it was every single time to be there where my Lord was born and to have the wonderful joy of appreciating where he died, where he rose again, where he's coming back again. Jack, I know you love the Holy Land too, so very much.
Oh, I do. And you know, Rex, I really learned that the Jewish people have love for the Muslims and the Arabs. And here is why. Rexella and I have taken at least 10 groups to Israel over the years. If we went, first of all, to Israel, we could get into no Muslim countries because they refused to let anyone come in from Israel. So in our tours, we had to take our people to all the other countries first, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, etc., and then to Israel, because Israel would accept everybody in love. And Rexella, something is going to happen here sometime this month. The UN is going to try to make Israel surrender. They're going to try to make them give up the lands they took and go back to the borders before the '67 war. And it's so terrible what they plan to do, because they're even going to, through our president, try to take away Jerusalem from them and give it to the Muslims. Thank you, President Obama. But Rexella, what really bothered me is today's paper saying if they become a state, the Palestinian state, for a two-state situation, the Palestinian area will not allow Jews to live there. Wow. You know, even the Jordanians and Lebanese wouldn't allow the Palestinians to come. They didn't want them. And the Jews lived oftentimes next door to them, but they will not allow the Jews in. It just goes to show you how messed up this situation is.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, one lady that I know so very, very well, her neighbor's a Palestinian, and they appreciate each other and they like each other, but I can't imagine saying that we're going to take away part of your state, give it to the Palestinians, and you can't even go there. That really takes a lot of nerve.
Right.
For our president, especially now. Something that is rising up that could be very confusing, misleading, and that is the merging of Christianity and Islam. Now, I've used this first article before, but I think it bears witness once again by Bill Mullenberg. Chrislam and religious syncretism. I have written before about the new development known as Chrislam, in which some misguided Christians believe they can somehow combine the two religions, Christianity and Islam, and still have something recognizable as the Christian faith. Sorry, but it can't happen. And now I'd like for you to take a look at Rabbi Garagorry. I referred to him last week because an article that he has written was sent to us from Dorothy Halverson in Colorado also, and it is our community news, the Rabbi's Corner. And it says Chrislam. Now, he has written a very, very fine article about Chrislam. We've been talking about it. We're going to divide it into 4 different areas of this article. The first one, the beginning. Chrislam is a despicable abomination being embraced by Christian churches across America, 4 of which are located here in Colorado. This aberration is the merging of Christianity and Islam, and of each group reading the other's holy text at their service. This movement was started in the early 80s. Well, I did not know that. Thank you, Rabbi. by the Tela in Lagos, Nigeria. Can you believe it? It appears that this religious movement gained momentum with the misinformation given to the American people by President George Bush's statement, Islam is a religion of peace. I didn't realize that it started in the 1980s, Jack, but how very, very interesting that is. Now, I want to ask Jack a very good question. He's known to be the walking Bible. I always like him to back up everything that he says with the Bible, and I know that that's our authority. Is this found in the Bible?
Oh, it really is, Rexella, and that's why we named our video study One World Religion Emerging. And was I shocked when I picked up my newspapers a few weeks ago where it stated that they were going to have Chrislam services on June 26th in 26 states, but it ended up in 32 states. And this thing is moving and moving faster than anything I've ever seen. And let me say this, it is the final sign before our Lord comes. That's how close it all is. Nothing more has to happen. So what happens as we study the Old Testament on this subject? We find out that there is a one world leader coming, for he devours the entire globe. Daniel 7:23, and he magnifies himself above all that is called God. And that's chapter 11, verse 36. We find in the New Testament the same thing. He rises in Revelation 13:1, and he has power over all kindreds, tongues, people, and nations, global, New World Order, and all the world worships him whose names are not written in the book of life. The true believers will recognize who he really is. And thank God we're not going to be here when it's in full harmony, because we will be raptured, praise the Lord, and it's the ones who call themselves Christians by name only who are going to be left behind for the biggest monstrosity in history. These two religions, antagonistic religions, joining together. It just cannot work. But Rexella, it tells us that the Lord's coming is so near. Oh.
And you know, Jack, I'm glad you're bringing that out right at the beginning of the program, because that brings joy to our hearts, and we know that that is a fact. That's for sure. The Lord is coming very, very soon. Now, something that's really been misunderstood here is the statement about the religion being a religion of peace, and we're going to go on with the rabbis referring to that. This statement about a peaceful religion could not be further from the truth, and is in complete disregard of the trail of blood which has accompanied Islam since its beginning at Medina in the 5th century of the Common Era, with the common practice of killing infidels as Muslims implanted their religion in countries that they dominated. Let's go on and see what this...
That's the Catholic report.
Yes, it is. And let's see what he's referring to. The Quran gives the Muslim the right to judge Christians and to kill them. For the jihad, the holy war, it commands the imposition of religion through force with the sword. I'm really sorry about that, but that's a good report there. Middle East Christians facing extremist atrocities. I'm so sorry that happened. That was just this past June. As Islamists flex muscle, Egypt's Christians despair. And of course we know about Egypt. Egypt bomb kills 21 at Alexandria. Coptic church. Now that is the Christian church there, and they're putting signs on all the Christians' homes: become Muslim or die. Thousands of Christians displaced in Ethiopia. 50 churches and dozens of Christians were destroyed. And going on. Muslims post death threats on doors of Christian homes. And again, thousands of Christians flee central Iraq, the United Nations reports. And then also Iran arrests dozens of evangelical Christians. Now, I'm sure that you are asking yourself this question: can there ever be able to be peace over there? Not only are they killing Christians, but they're killing each other. Jack, can they really have peace over there?
And it's this Ahmadinejad who's the big troublemaker. He is personally sponsoring Hamas, who's doing all the damage in Palestine, Hezbollah doing all the damage in Lebanon. He is sending men and materials to both wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And then you have the Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, the Al-Shabaab of Africa, and they're all looking for war. And Ahmadinejad constantly says, I'm going to wipe Israel off the map. I'm going to fulfill Psalm 83:4. Let us remove Israel from being a nation, that their name be no more in remembrance. Now, I've really been shocked because I, through Kissinger, heard that they are preparing Obama to rule a new world order. But right now there's another move on with Tony Blair, who is starting a religion and a religious movement to draw them all together into one, Christianity and Islam, and he's promoted it at Harvard and Yale, and now along with Bill Clinton they're going to hit all the colleges and even the grade schools. And something's going to come of it. One of these two men will get the power through a peace contract. For this one, who's called the world dictator, comes in peaceably, Daniel 11:21, enters in peaceably, Daniel 11:24. But it's a contract of death and hell, Isaiah 28:15. Why? Because through peace he destroys many, Daniel 8:25. How's that possible? A false hope. Oh boy, it's happened. It's going to be a 7-year contract. It will work for 42 months, and that's Daniel 9:27, and then it's broken. They're saying, peace, 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 peace. Jeremiah 6:14 and Jeremiah 8:11. But there'll be no peace. And just at that point, 1 Thessalonians 5:3, when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. And that's when Russia moves in Ezekiel 38. And they say, I'm going against them that are at peace. Chapter 38, verse 11. Wow. After 42 months, that's as long as it lasted. They can't keep them working together. And Rexella, when we were in Israel, President Navan said, I know we're going to have a war with Russia someday because of Ezekiel 38 and 39. Moshe Dayan said there'll be war with Russia, the next big one for Israel. And he used the same chapters. And that's chapter 38, verses 1 and 2. The word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog, the Rosh prince of Moscow and Tobolsk. And chapter 39, they lose. But not only do they war, but all the different Arab tribes among the Muslims join with them, align with Russia. And you find that in Daniel 11:40, Isaiah 17:1, Ezekiel 38, verses 5 to 7, and Psalm 83, verses 5 to 7. Ahmadinejad has just said, let us cast Israel off from being a nation. Let's drive them into the sea. But everything they happen to do fails because God is on the side of Israel and says in Ezekiel 39:6, I will rain fire upon Gog of Magog and all their allies. They're not going to win. And they think they're going to drive Israel into the sea and get rid of that nation. My God says in Isaiah chapter 56, verse 5, I'll give Israel an everlasting name. There'll be a second move when China comes, Revelation 16, verse 12. And then, of course, the war is described in Revelation 9, 14 to 18, the bloodiest war in history. The Jews call it the Battle of Battles. We call it Armageddon. Revelation 16:16. And then there's a third and final move when all nations come against Jerusalem. Zechariah 14:2. And that's when Mashiach appears. His feet hit the Mount of Olives. It splits from east to west, verse 4. And the enemies are destroyed, verse 12. And year after year they come up to Jerusalem to worship the King because God is going to set up his people to rule the world.